Welcome. Thank you for taking the time to join us here today. I'm Jessica Brophy, Content Director here at House of Education. I have a background in higher ed, journalism, and marketing. Today, I'll be sharing with you some of the data insights our company has gathered over the past year and a half. For those of you who aren't familiar with us, House of Education is a higher ed marketing company helping universities connect with the right prospective students. We're based in Stockholm, Sweden, and we work with universities throughout Europe and beyond. Many of our clients are business schools, but we help public and private institutions recruit students from across the world into all sorts of programs. So, what am I going to be showing you today? Where does this data come from? Our digital advisors are data collection tools that ask prospective students questions about their background, their interests, and their goals. And then we use these responses to inform them of a fit to a university or program. We have designed and launched more than 200 of these tools. While each digital advisor is customized to the client, there are often similar questions across the tools, allowing us to identify trends and patterns. We've collected responses from more than 250,000 prospective students from across the world between January 2021 and June of this year. Once a student answers all the questions and submits the form, they receive an email with their personalized feedback, and they can go to that feedback anytime to take another look, for example. So who are these students? Where are they? What are they looking for? Here we have a breakdown of what type of degree or program a potential applicant is seeking. As you can see, well over half of the prospective student respondents are seeking some form of graduate degree, whether that's a master's degree or an MBA. We'll be covering 3 areas today. The first is trends to inform marketing and branding narratives. In other words, what do prospective students want? What are they looking for in terms of programs and universities? And the second are what are some key indicators of whether a prospective student is likely to apply? The third is a brief look at some of the factors to a successful marketing and advertising campaign. So let's start by taking a look at what students want. The pandemic has shifted student expectations, especially when it comes to study format. Only 1/3 of students we talk to are looking for a traditional, full-time, wholly on-campus experience. So if you offer any sort of flexibility, hybrid learning, you should highlight how this works as one of your unique selling points. If you don't, that is, if you don't offer any of this flexibility or hybrid learning, be sure to focus on why the full-time on-campus experience is worth the student's time. What is it about being physically in that space, in those classrooms, that makes the experience special or desirable? This desire for flexibility and part-time options becomes even more apparent when looking at master's degrees, particularly MBAs, where roughly 6 in 10 plan to combine work and studies in some way. If your institution or program offers part-time study or the option to spread a degree or certificate over several terms, this is really excellent information to communicate to prospective students. It's something that really can set your program apart. One of the things that we found the most interesting, actually, I found the most interesting, is whether they hope to work during their studies or not. The overwhelming majority of students, 9 out of every 10, want an education that is practical and career-focused. However we phrase this question, whatever the type of program or learning institution, whether we were asking students who were looking for bachelor's programs or master's level programs, most prospective students are much more interested in hands-on learning than they are research and theory. Only 2%, just 2% of students said they would prefer a degree that is mostly theory. This means any opportunity you have to highlight USPs around career-focused learning is invaluable. It's really something that's going to make your university or program shine. So featuring student testimonials about real-world application of skills, detailing industry-based experiences, simulations, case studies, internship opportunities, and networking support. All of these things are likely to make a big difference for prospective students. They want to know that they're learning what they need to know. Student interest in real-world experiences actually extends beyond just wanting to learn the skills. They really expect university to have ties to industry. This is particularly important for business school programs, as you might expect it to be, and hospitality, but also for healthcare and engineering. Students want to feel that their university is not an ivory tower, but is connected to the working world. More than half of the respondents say industry ties are important because they want to be sure they're learning the right skills, the skills they need for their future career. And a quarter say that networking and establishing contacts among industry is highly valuable to them. So you might want to think about ways that you can showcase any of the programs you have, any on-campus activities to support networking as well. One thing that we've seen a lot of over the past few years is the word entrepreneurship, which kind of means a lot of things to a lot of people in different ways. It's been a major buzzword for a lot of universities and programs, but it's a buzzword for a reason. Students have genuine interest in learning the principles of entrepreneurship, even if they're not interested in founding or running a business. Gen Z students are really keen on being their own boss, and millennials, myself included, have been working side hustles for years. So you want to be able to tap into this interest by highlighting leadership training, your university's startup incubator, or skills workshops to students. It's sure to be a winner across a lot of different programs, not just business programs. One of the other interesting things we've found is how different groups of prospective students have different goals and agendas. For example, engineering students are much more likely to be motivated by the content of a degree course, while business students are much more invested in what comes after the degree. They want to know about their prospective career outcomes. So this is the kind of valuable insight you can have if you're asking prospective students, not just what do you want to do, but why do you want to do it? So if you're asking about their goals and motivations, you can create outreach content that appeals to the right group of students. If you start to notice, for instance, that your business students are quite motivated by prospective career outcomes, you can tailor your outreach to highlight those efforts. From a marketing and branding perspective, it's vital to understand what students are worried about. What is keeping them from jumping in, feet first, head first, whatever, into your program? You want to be able to address their concerns as an institution, hopefully right on your own website before you even have to have an interview. So one of the primary concerns for high school students beginning university is fear of choosing the wrong program. And this has actually been part of the core mission of House of Education, actually, is trying to reassure students that they're making the right choice when they choose a program. So you want to think about how you can assure students that a particular program is the right fit. So many students also worry about the differences between high school and university, or perhaps between education systems in different countries. And in our opinion, many university websites fail to offer deep descriptions of how the term system, assessment, and exams work. So these are the kinds of things that, you know, when you're the fish in the water, you don't see the water. So you might not think about how important it is to explain how the term system works, or how exams or assessment, that kind of thing work. So adding this information may calm some fears of prospective students. One of the things that's kind of interesting to think about too is how you can present this information without overwhelming visitors to your website. And so that's also a challenge, right? Because you can't put everything up there. You have to make sure that the user experience on the website is clean and tight. So it's a balancing act. It's always a balancing act. Safety is a primary concern for students. Whether we're asking students if they want a safe place or a clean place, a safe place or a vibrant social life, a safe place or a reasonable cost of living, they want a safe city, preferably one that's student-friendly. So this might be a sign of student fear and concern about moving away from home, maybe for the first time. So any information that you can provide about campus and city safety measures, statistics, can go a long way in persuading students that your university is right for them and a good place to be. We also often ask students about preferred campus size, and a lot of students indicate that they're looking for something smaller, more intimate. And you can surmise from that, by extension, that it's a safer environment. They want to feel part of a safe community. So we're really fortunate that some of our clients actually report back to us information on which of the students who take the quizzes, the digital advisors, actually end up applying. And this is really great for us because we get a chance to see if there are questions or responses that can tell us whether someone is likely to apply. So we'll start with the obvious, right? One of the most simple and obvious indicators of whether a student is likely to apply is when they say they want to start studying. So if you see here in the top chart are students who have finished the quiz and then subsequently applied to the university. And on the bottom are those who finished the quiz but didn't apply. And as we can see, 96% of those who ended up applying said that they wanted to start studying this year. Only 53% of those who didn't apply said they wanted to start studying this year. So it's a bit of a blunt instrument, but still a useful one. Other indicators show that students who are likely to apply have really spent some time thinking about how the university or how the program is going to work for them. They've imagined themselves learning a specific program. They know what they're looking for. In other words, they've spent some time researching or at least thinking about their desired program. There's actually a 25-point difference between those who applied and those who didn't in the response to the question, what do you want to study? Students who have thought about the program that is a good fit for them are much more likely to apply. And I think this kind of probably doesn't come as a surprise either, because students who are further along in the decision-making funnel, they've really had the time to do the research and think about how they're going to fit university into their future career goals. So it seems that if that prospective student is further down the decision funnel, they are more aware of what they want assistance with, rather than simply saying they want help with accommodations or visas and meeting with other students. So in this data point, we can see students who didn't apply, about half of them say they want help with everything, which means they probably aren't at the stage where they're really thinking about, okay, what am I actually nervous about in terms of going to university? Am I worried about finding an apartment? Am I worried about getting that visa? Am I worried I'm never going to meet anybody and I'll never leave my room? So that's another good indicator that students are leaning towards applying. So this data point actually comes from a quiz matching students to an intensive physics program, one that typically produces a lot of career researchers. And so what we can see here is that of the students who ended up applying, they are much more likely to choose a career in research, which actually aligns with the program because it's one of the expected outcomes. And that demonstrates that students whose motivations align with the historical data of graduate performance are more likely to apply. So again, this shows that they've been doing the thinking, they've been imagining themselves in your program, in your institution, in your city, and thinking about what life will be like. Student behavior can also tell us something. So we also have data on when prospective students finish the quiz, they get an email that gives them the information, their match, their feedback. And what we can see is that when prospects complete the digital advisor, students who are likely to apply actually have 14 more points, they're 14 more points likely to open that email compared to those who don't. So that's, again, just an indicator of the genuine interest. And the interesting thing about this is that it's not self-reported, right? So when we're asking students questions, they're self-reporting, I want this or I don't want this. But their behavior, we can actually track that in terms of who's opening these emails. And we can understand that the more likely they are to open the email, the more likely they are to apply. So now we're going into a part of the presentation that is a little bit about effective marketing. And one of the things that we've seen is that there are some things that universities are doing well, and there are some things that can be done better. So now that we have an idea of what students are looking for and what they're worried about, let's take a look at the effective ways to reach students. So something that might be a problem for marketing a program or a university is that sometimes prospective students don't understand the USPs that the universities are using to separate their program from the rest of the pack. For example, more than 1 in 4 students asked about a dual degree option for a program said they didn't understand what a dual degree would entail. Nearly 1 in 5 said that they didn't understand the difference between public and private institutions. We've also had students respond on engineering digital advisors that they didn't understand the differences between types of engineering degrees. So something to keep in mind is that some groups of students need support, knowing what's possible, and they need more details on how things work. This goes back again to this idea of presenting information, more details, more concrete things for students to dig into. This seems to be particularly true for students who are interested in a bachelor's program. And that's probably not surprising. For most of them, it's going to be their first experience at university. If you're looking for a master's or an MBA, you've probably already been through the system. So you're not as unprepared. So this is one of my favorite data sets that we have. We often ask, not always, but we often will close the digital advisor with the question of, now that you've been thinking about this, how would you like to learn more about X university or X program? And so this kind of shows how students prefer to communicate. And what we see is that students from African countries and India are more inclined to speak to advisors compared to North American students or European students. When prospective students are asked how they want to learn more about a program, 28% of students from African countries and 30% of Indian students say they want to speak to an advisor, compared to only 13% of students in Europe and 29% of American students. I'm sorry, that's supposed to be 19%. Students from Latin America actually prefer brochure download by a huge margin, 37%. And this could be that they want more information, but maybe they want to digest it in their own time. So across the board, one of the things that I found the most interesting, because I know how much emphasis has been put on digital and online events over the past few years during the pandemic, online events are the least popular option for students, ranging from 6% and peaking only at about 11% of students seeking that. This is perhaps an indication that less effort should be spent on virtual fairs and/or webinars, although it is important to note that we don't have data about how many students who attend those events actually convert to applicants, right? So that might have a really high conversion rate, in which case, then even if it's a small number of students who are going, it's pretty vital. So let's talk a little bit about paid media. In terms of ad spending and cost to reach students by channel, our insights have shown us that it's vital to understand several factors about platform performance and thinking beyond number of impressions, right? So for example, when you're considering a platform like TikTok, or considering TikTok specifically, the CPM is the same in France and Sweden, €1.50. But if you're tracking conversion events and not just impressions, you'll see that only 7% of French users who land on the digital advisor page actually complete the quiz, while 18% of Swedish users do. This means that the cost per lead is nearly 1/3 in Sweden compared to France, using the same platform, the same message, different languages, but if you're only tracking impressions or clicks, you're only going to see part of the story. So it's really important to think beyond just kind of how many people are seeing this, how many people are clicking on it. When it comes to Twitter, the story is also complex. So we see the CPM for Twitter in Africa is 70 cents, while the CPM in Europe is actually €4. So it's much, much more expensive. And it's well known that Twitter is an expensive place to advertise in Europe, and much less so in Africa. That said, if you're tracking only CPM, you're missing the part of the story that says the conversion rate is nearly as good or the same in Europe as it is in Africa, suggesting that the great quality of users on the channel, which is supported by the demographic statistics that show Twitter users are high earners and also well educated. So yes, it's expensive, but you're also finding potentially the people that you're looking for. So, so what this shows us is that, as I'm sure any of you who are involved in paid ads know, finding the right message for the right audience using the right channel can be difficult. And so what we found to be the case in our own efforts is that it's really important to track conversion events, as these are the actual goal. Okay, I know we've covered so much and really kind of moved through a lot of things, and there's a lot more that I'd love to talk about, but I want to make sure that we have the opportunity for questions. So let me just summarize a few of the more important take-home messages, okay? Students want flexibility and options. Whatever customization your program allows should be highlighted, because for some students, continuing to work during their studies is a reality. Students want practical education. They're focused on their life after their studies, particularly in terms of career development and career trajectory. 3, reassuring students about their choices is a major challenge. Be sure to offer as many concrete details on the programs as possible, and think about creative ways that you can show students that you are indeed the right university or the right program. 4, don't assume students understand your USPs. Many students are not going to know the difference between a Master of Science and a Master of Arts, for example. And finally, the best way to reach out to students, whether that is after initial contact or via paid media, varies widely from market to market. So those are the messages I want to leave you with. And we are going to send out a PDF version of this presentation later today to anyone who's signed up. And if you have any questions, we're almost out of time, but I would be happy to take them. Oh, before I forget, we are going to be offering our clients a workshop in early December that will be looking at different, sorry, it's going to be looking at how to get more from your social media budget. So basically using the data from the digital advisors to improve performance for paid media and how to get more quality leads. Sorry, it's not exactly my forte, so it's really up to our paid media specialists, DJ and Vuger. So I hope I didn't butcher that. Okay. We do have data on Asian students. Did it not show? I'm sorry, I'm not sure exactly. Let's see if we can go back and look at this slide. So yeah, we do have data. The majority of our data comes from African students, particularly in sub-Saharan Africa, because we have a few clients who are particularly interested in drawing in students from those areas. But yeah, we do have a substantial amount of data on or about Asian students. Any other questions? Well, if there are no other questions, I want to thank you all so much for being here today with us. Keep an eye out for our next webinar and for the workshop that's coming for our existing clients in December. And we will keep you up to date on what we learn. So thank you.